Hey, all right. This is our first ever live, and I'm Kindall, and this
I'm
is
Doug.
nice to meet you guys. So, we're definitely excited about this conversation. We have been talking our heads off, going back and forth about whole food plant based eating and losing weight. So, we have both we know each other for now just a couple of years. We've known each other, work in the same industry together, and we both have had very unique health journeys that I think a lot of y'all could relate to. And even though we
hmm
both bring different things to the table with health issues and health problems that we've overcome, we have both tackled it with the same approach, which is eating a whole food plant based diet, especially eating a no oil whole food plant based diet. And we
Yeah.
thought it'd be a lot of fun to just come on here and share our passion and our excitement for this, especially while the new year is still very fresh and this is actually the time of year when most people stop their health goals. And we wanted to bring the energy back onto your channel and to talk to you and to see where this might fall for you. So if you're scrolling and you're looking for ideas or solutions, please come hang out with us. This is our first ever Zoom or our first ever live that we've done like this. And we want to create a very comfortable, low key, approachable place. And we want questions and ideas. So Doug, what are your thoughts on this? What are you thinking getting this going?
Well, you're a little glitchy for me. I hope it's streaming well for everybody. But I'm super excited to share this because my health before finding whole food plant based was like a roller coaster. I mean, I've basically spent my whole life, I think it's a pretty typical pattern, especially for a lot of guys, unless you're like that person that's like that perfect person who like started exercising when they were young and then they get into their career and they just keep exercising. And I don't know, I can't really relate to that. That wasn't like it was for me and most of my friends. But you kind of get busy with life. You put on a couple pounds a year and it doesn't seem like a big deal, like what's a couple pounds, who cares? But the problem is life goes on. Next thing you know, it's 10 years or 20 years later, and if you're doing 5 pounds a year for 20 years would be 100 pounds, we can't have that. So for me, I was always just, I don't know if I was ever an ideal weight, but I was a little in college is when I guess I left home and went to college, and you start eating whatever and drinking beer and all that stuff. And next thing you know, you start putting on some weight, you exercise a little, you kind of work out when you're in college and stuff. But after that, not so much. And then I found myself like trying to diet, and then so I would try all these different things like I see so many people doing out there. And I know some of you guys can relate to this because it's just the way it is, especially the fad stuff. It's like, oh, I remember when I tried doing Atkins, I went to Weight Watchers, I've tried like Mediterranean, I've tried, just like keto, all these different things, but it was always the same exact thing. I would have my weight up here and then, oh, cool, diet. It would go down like maybe 20 pounds. And then, but the problem is I couldn't sustain it. And that's where, I mean, for me, it's about sustaining this healthy lifestyle. So you have to find something that is sustainable. And I didn't find any of those other ways of eating to be sustainable. In fact, on keto, I would start getting like sore joints and stuff. I never got diagnosed or anything, but I know my mom used to get this thing called gout, where it's like your ankles start hurting and your toe joints and weird stuff. And I think it's from eating a bunch of meat or something. But we should say I'm not a medical expert. I just know my experience, and that's what I'm going to be sharing as we go live and stuff. But my health before finding whole food plant based was an unsure roller coaster of feeling like I'm doing something that's working if my goal is to lose weight. But as it turned out, all those roller coasters up and down, like when my weight was down, people are like, oh, you're looking good, Doug. My weight was up. Nobody says anything. They're being polite, I guess. Then you do another one, your weight goes down and it goes up. Well, the effect of that over years, I ended up, between family history and all eating all that stuff, I ended up with heart disease about a year and a half ago. And, it's just, that was a real eye opener. And that's finally the point where, based on my cardiac rehab and recommendations from some really good friends that really know about this stuff, I stopped all the fads and I went for what is proven and what really, really works. And I found it to really, really work.
I'm curious, were
What
you
about
the
you?
kid? Well, I want to know. I'm curious because I think there's a lot of people who could relate to this. Did you grow up naturally being able to eat what you wanted and not have to worry up to like the age of college? Were you kind of always skinny, or did you have?
Oh, and you are glitchy a little bit. I'm going to finish that thought, and I'm not sure what the listeners are seeing. You can guys leave us a comment. Let us know what the glitch is like, or if it's looking good for you guys. But growing up, I was never. I mean, I guess I'm kind of big boned to begin with. I'm a thicker guy. Um, back in the day, it's probably before your time, Kindall, but back in the day, we used to go, when you would go shopping with your mom, they had a special size. They called it husky. So I did wear husky clothing sometimes when I was young, but I think that was more like baby fat when I was in high school and stuff. I mean, I look back at pictures and I was relatively thin. I didn't think about what I ate. Nobody thought about what we ate. This was the 80s. And it was all about just doing whatever. There was no rules. We didn't think about it. If they made a product like Oreos, you ate the Oreos. But I definitely wasn't in a house where it was like healthy. Health wasn't the idea at the house ever. No offense, mom, if you're seeing this, but we cooked at home. We didn't go out to eat a lot. So I think that was probably an advantage.
Okay.
What about you?
Well, that's really interesting. I could say my story definitely had the same roller coaster vibe to it, where it wasn't until the age of, I think around like middle school is when I noticed that I was looking different from other girls, where some girls were starting to get like real sleek and had that super cute figure. And I just was not getting that desired look. And so that's when I became very body conscious and began looking for ways. And all the answers that I found at the time were in magazines. And they were with the
Mm.
most stupid diet ideas, like go eat 7 apples for one day. Then the next day you eat only ground beef. And then like they like did all these weird things for like 10 days and you lose weight. And you did. I did. I lost weight. But it started training my brain to think very short term and not health forward with weight loss. And then I also equated eating salads with dieting all the time. And so fruits and vegetables became a food that were for diet, for the girls who couldn't eat the pizza, for the girls who um, didn't have the body metabolism to digest food quick enough. And so it almost, I started to create like a very unhealthy, like binge restrict diet cycle for myself. And it wasn't until, man, my late 20s that I so fortunately was introduced to an amazing health community. And that's where within that group, I began actually looking at research and looking at data, health. I began actually prioritizing health above weight loss. And then the thing that you and I both landed on that's been such a big eye opener for us is the Dr. McDougall method, the eating whole food plant-based, forks over knives, really that approach that offers nutrition and lots of just food that is filled with ingredients that actually began to heal my body. And that's when I started even seeing things like eczema going away, digestive problems going away. And then obviously the weight came off too, but it was like you were saying, like all the other methods I chose were so short-term, not sustainable, very unsatisfying. And I found to be just, I hated the idea of like counting calories and counting macros all the time. like counting calories for the rest of my life. Like, are you kidding me? There's no way I want to be doing that when everyone else is eating and just pouring food and just eating normal. And I kept that idea of like, what is normal? What is eating normal? You know?
Well, I remember, I don't know if you're still, I don't think you're still into it, but you were like into like bodybuilding stuff, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So was that a part of the journey, or like, how did that come up? Or was
That's
that
actually
after you'd already made changes and stuff?
that's a really good question. So the bodybuilding, that was probably 4 years ago, and I had already learned that there are some benefits to fruits and vegetables and to eating healthy. But again, that word healthy has such a broad meaning in our culture today, where eating healthy might be eating keto, which is cheese, meat. Not very many people do a plant-based keto approach. And so when I went into the bodybuilding world, I came into it with a mindset that I wanted to lose weight and I wanted to work out and get as fit as I could. And even though I would have said it was to be healthy, it is a very unhealthy culture for the most part. It's very self-absorbed, very focused on, and I'm speaking from my perspective. I know there's some wonderful
Yeah.
bodybuilders out there that know how to do it well. They have the mindset, they have the food preparation. They are rocking it. And there are even whole food plant-based bodybuilders out there. So I would say though, pick your people carefully, who you coach with, who you allow to influence you. But I got very sick after doing that way of eating, which was very low calorie, 1,200 calories a day, very low carb. And carbohydrates are everything. Now that I'm eating so many carbs, I'm like, my brain's thinking better. I'm skinnier than I've ever been. But during that bodybuilding show, I was eating mostly zucchinis, cabbage, lettuce, and lots of protein, lots of chicken. And what happened for me is I ended up being in the hospital for there was multiple reasons attached to it, but I had a bad kidney infection and my body just was so exhausted from processing that much protein. And kidneys really take a toll. I learned that that's where we process a lot of the proteins that we eat. And there is a protein limit. I did not know this, but our bodies can only process so much protein in a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just reading about that. And I also saw a really interesting chart. I wish I had it to pull up, of like how much protein is necessary in a day. It's something like only 50 to 70 grams or something, quite low. But then the average in each country of how much protein people eat. So you look, United States is on the top of the list. We eat more protein than any country in the world. Second is Brazil, I noticed. But then it goes way down, and it's kind of like if you guys are familiar with the China study, that's just a longitudinal study of what they eat in certain cultures, and particularly in China, where some of the most centurions are the people that live to 100 years old. And it turns out that they don't eat a bunch of protein, and they eat a lot of soy, the tofu and soybeans and things like that, rice, white rice. So it's like
Great
almost
stuff. Right.
upside
Yes.
down. Thank
All
you,
the
white
white
rice.
rice.
Okay, so let me just get this straight. So when we talk about whole food plant-based, you guys, we're talking about McDougall specifically. I mean, you could say, Kindall, like we agreed on this, that we agree with whole food plant-based with low fat or low oil or no added oil. Forks Over Knives is a great resource. The China study is really interesting. But then there's Dr. Esselstyn, there's Dr. Ornish, which is the cardiac rehab I went to after I had to get some stents. I almost died from my diet. Just like she ended up in the hospital, I ended up in the hospital. I had my right coronary artery descending 90% blocked. and the left, which they call the widowmaker. If I would have had a heart attack, I probably would have died. But so that's Ornish that teaches that. But then there's McDougall, which I think we both, I mean, I'm not saying I know more than Ornish. I just know it's easier for me to follow McDougall because McDougall is really, his book is called The Starch Solution, you guys. So if you could imagine, I mean, a lot of you watching this will probably, even if you're not following these other diets, you know that you've been conditioned to think that, oh, eating low carb, you'll lose weight. High protein, you got to have protein. You know, as if we're not getting I mean, I haven't eaten meat in over a year. I get more protein than I need. You know, just from, I mean, and there's nothing, you know what beats beef for protein? Oh gosh, what are they called? Lentils. Lentils blow away beef for protein. Okay, so if you want high protein, eat your lentils, and you're gonna get a bunch of fiber too. It's gonna be awesome. But believe it or not, you don't have to eat, like, you don't have to starve yourself. You don't have to eat no carbs. In this book by McDougall called The Starch Solution, he outlines his program where you get to have potatoes. If you like potatoes, it's good. Pasta, rice. I mean, I mean, that's not all you eat. It's whole food, plant-based. So there's lots of vegetables. We're filling, I just saw you post the other day, Kindall. Maybe you could explain this about your plate. You know, isn't it like put half starch, half veggie? I don't know. Tell us what that basic prescription was that you posted.
This is going to change everyone's life. This is truly the easiest, most simple and satisfying way to eat. So the method that I really love and that Doug was talking about is Dr. McDougall. And Dr. McDougall uses a very simple method where if you take your plate, you just draw a line down the center of it and you fill half of your plate with all the vegetables that you love, broccoli, lettuce, anything that is in the veggie category. And then the other half of your plate, you fill it with starches. And that would be any kind of starch combination you can think of. I personally am a huge fan of sweet potatoes. I absolutely love white potatoes. I even make mashed potatoes. French fries in my air fryer with no oil.
Air fryer, oh yeah.
That is like that
air
is
fryer will change your life.
It will. Like I could throw away every other tool in my kitchen except for my air fryer. It is a blessing. And so eating that way with the 50-50 plate, not only am I there's so much food. It's a mountain of food that is satisfying my stomach. So I'm actually like filling up my stomach to a point of satisfaction. I'm not under eating. I'm not feeling depleted. And the other thing too is I'm filling up on food that is highly nutritious. So my brain and my stomach are both sending messages to each other, and they're saying like, you're full and you're also meeting your nutritional needs. And then the beautiful thing about it too is that they are, I have done some of the math just because I'm curious, like how many calories are on my plate. And this big mountain of potatoes, vegetables, some legumes ends up being around 400 calories. You eat that 3 or 4 times a day. And I'm like, I can't eat. I would literally be like stuffing myself. I'd be gorging myself if I tried to overeat. And it's really, it's so doable. Yeah.
You know, what's interesting though, like before when you were talking about your, like the bodybuilder diet, you were restricting yourself down to 1,200 calories. But now you can eat 1,200 calories and you're going to feel totally full and you're going to get all your nutrition. So it's like, that's the thing. Plants are nutrient dense. So we can eat a little bit less, but also, you know, there's less calories. I mean, you can make a salad that's this big and it's still not going to be, I mean, unless you do, you know, if you go to Chili's and get a salad like that, it's going to be 2,000 calories, but it's all coming from the oil, the fried tortilla chips that are in there, the, you know, some of it will come from avocados, but that's okay. But a lot of times it's just the oil. We're going to have a whole episode. We're going to talk about oil, but let me not get ahead of myself. Next, we're going to talk about, so that's how kind of what life was like before. And we talked about what we're doing. So let's just talk a little, let's just describe a little bit of like our quality of life now, and then some stuff that we're excited to talk about in future live streams we're going to do. And I'll start and then I'll hand it over to you. I'm excited now because now I love the way I eat now. Like I've found it to be way more satisfying. Like really satisfying, because I don't know about you guys, but before, like if you, let's say, I mean, I'm a chicken wing and pizza guy. I think that's what almost killed me, because even when I've been kind of eating healthy for the last 10 years, but I would eat healthy stuff over here, but then I'd still have chicken wings and pizza. But it doesn't really satisfy you the way that I found that some of the really just embracing a healthy lifestyle, and not only satisfies you food wise, but it kind of satisfies you kind of holistically, if that makes sense. You probably know what I mean, Kindall, but it becomes a passion or an excitement, and you feel like a friend of mine is a retired lieutenant colonel in the Army, and he's a little older than I am, but he's very fit. He bikes like 100 miles and runs, and we're in a chat group, and he's posting pictures of what he eats. And he said, here's his advice. He said, think about everything you eat. Don't think of it as food. Think of it as fuel. What is it going to do to your body? So when he chooses broccoli, he's aware of what is he doing to his body with that broccoli. And if you think of the inverse of that, what is a chicken wing doing to my body, or a slice of pizza? It's like, ooh, not so good. So I love it, just knowing that what I'm doing is healing me, and I've only been in this for about a year with this style of eating, this way of eating. I have hit a plateau of weight loss, and we're going to work through it together in future episodes. I'm going to let Kindall coach me a little bit. She didn't even know this yet, but we'll talk about it together. We're going to work through it. I love just knowing that, and I learned this at my rehab. Cardiac rehab was very intensive. We had like a nutritionist and a food kitchen where they would teach us how to cook. It was awesome. But we also had group therapy sessions about all the changes we're making. And they said the same thing. Think of it as fuel. We used to do meditation sessions where we would just like visualize the blood and the nutrient going through our veins and how it was going to our heart and just healing the cells and stuff. And it sounds a little crazy and weird, but if you're more of a science mind, just look up the science on either McDougall or Ornish. Dr. Ornish has been doing this similar diet for over 40 years, and it's completely documented. In fact, it's documented to the point where your insurance will, if you have heart disease, they'll send you to this $7,000 rehab I went to, and it's paid completely by insurance. But it works. You actually can reverse heart disease, and if you have diabetes, this diet will reverse diabetes, type 2 diabetes as well. Now, I know we're not supposed to make medical claims because we're not health professionals, but I'm not making that claim. I'm letting the scientific studies that have happened make that claim. It is not even a claim. It is evidence. It will happen. So that's what I'm excited about. I'm excited about just having a new way of life and having it stick. Like I said before, I was on that roller coaster, guys, but now I feel confident and stable and excited about the way I eat. And I don't know, it's a strange thing that's happened to me, but I feel like a little bit like a different person. Some of it was getting scared. I don't know if you getting in the hospital, if that affected you that way too, Kindall, or what got you to make the changes. But we can talk about psychology in other episodes. But what is your life like now after your whole food plant-based?
I just got to say, I mean, I hope you guys can just hear the passion and excitement and the freedom in Doug's voice, because that's exactly how I feel. It's like somebody took my blurry glasses, maybe if I had poor prescription, I was wearing glasses and I was kind of just going through life, trying my best. But then I suddenly got these perfect 20/20 vision glasses, and everything just became so much more clear for me, with just being able to think better, with being able to be in tune with my body. And when I was eating foods that were highly processed and very disruptive to the microbiome, it created a lot of up and down roller coaster emotions inside of my body, especially as a female. I'm just telling y'all, ladies, like that cycle that we live on, if you're still menstruating, like that is going to become way less traumatic. And this is, again, going back to research. I'm not making this up. This is just within our foods. We have a lot of hormones. When you remove the hormonal food, the dairy, the meat that is not serving you all the time, it made such a big difference. And the other part too that I love that Doug touched on is when we start thinking about food as fuel, and there is definitely a psychology that we totally have to dive into on this, because I have now dedicated my life. I am a health coach. I love psychology. I love working through the behaviors and the mindset, but being able to think about food from a place that it is the foundation that I can then build off of. It doesn't, my day is not wrapped around with, ooh, I can't wait for my next hit to get this donut or to go eat some ice cream, or mine wasn't so much chicken wings and pizza, but mine definitely fell into like the sweets. I have a very strong the sweet craving, the cheese craving, and the fats. The fats from processed foods just really drove my body nuts. But I was no longer living in this, like, I hope my next meal satisfies me. I hope I get this big hit from this next, this meal that I'm going to eat. Now I'm going to eat this way so that I have the energy and I have the vitality to go do all these other fun things. I show up way better in life. I get dressed more quickly and easily because I like how my body looks. I like how I feel. I don't stand forever going, oh, this outfit makes me look fat, or this outfit just, it's too tight and I feel very uncomfortable. Like now I just have comfort in my skin. I feel great. And I think what's good for people to hear too is that this is a lifestyle and it needs to be treated still though with, it still is a journey. Like I've not arrived. There's no arriving at some point where I just stop ever having cravings or I stop never wanting to ever have these foods again. But it's now I know better and I feel so much better that I'm making decisions from a place of how will this affect me later? Is it worth the cost of eating this food? And what will what is the word I'm thinking of? Like what are the consequences going to be? And so I think that's something that we can always attest to and talk about more. But even just real quickly to share one last thing, I don't get sick nearly as often as I used to. And that right there for me is a really big deal. Being somebody who was just around a lot of little kids with the flu, I'm so grateful that over these past couple of years, like my body has a much stronger immune system. And I know right now, 1 in 10 people are eating the correct amount of fruit and vegetable servings that we need in a day. And I just wonder, like, what would happen if everyone started eating a diet that was so heavy with plants? How would that make you feel? How would that change your life? How would you show up and be able to do life? And that's why we wanted to start this. So we're going to stop talking because we could keep going forever about this, but we have way more topics that we want to discuss. Yeah. Any last thoughts, Doug?
Well, we just have a ton, like you said, we have a ton of topics. What we really want to do, this will be a series. It's going to be weekly. We're going to do it on Mondays. Eventually, we'll land on a certain time. We always do it. And we just want to take you along the journey. It's like for me, I feel a lot of passion. Like at my age, I see so many of my friends, and I know, like, the bottom line is this: if your BMI is over 30, if you are eating lots of fat, and I always tell guys now, if we get into the conversation, you got to know your numbers. If your cholesterol levels are high, if your blood pressure is high, I mean, yeah, they're going to put you on medication, but that doesn't make it okay. You are going to have a cardiac event eventually. You are not going to avoid that. It is going to happen. And so I'm excited about teaching about this and raising awareness about this. Of course, weight loss is great. Um, and I got to tell you, I don't even remember until this year the last time, like, Kindall was talking about like wearing certain clothes and them feeling good and being happy with the way you look. Listen, even for us guys, like, it's no fun, putting on having your belly pressing against your shirt. Like, it's really nice when your shirt kind of waves in the breeze a little bit instead of your belly pressing against it. And sometimes that happens for me. Sometimes it's also really fun throwing away all your extra large shirts, and now I'm down to larges. And I know, in another 6 months to a year, I might even wear mediums. I don't know. Hopefully I'll work out enough to stay in the large. But we're super excited to share with you guys our journeys. We're actually, I'm going to go back and exercise some more. Even though I already exercised this morning, I'm going to do something a little different. Just play a little pickleball, maybe hit a different muscle group in the gym. But we another Zoom we're going to be doing at 7:30 tonight. We actually have a healthy community. I'm sure we'll be sharing more with you guys. But we have support Zooms on Mondays that are helping people just get healthier and make changes. And that's our vision. That's our goal. So it's our hope that this is going to help you guys see a little bit into this world in a way that makes you maybe want to come on along and get a little healthier with us.
Sounds good.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, you guys, thanks for joining us. If you made it this far, you better we don't even have a place they can like us or anything. We don't know. We're just having fun, and we'll see what happens. All right. So, all right.
Awesome.
I'm going to end it. You guys have a good one.